Hey guys, this is Brother Scott with the Potter's House, and today I want us to kind of look at some verses, and we're going to begin in the book of Isaiah, and we're going to begin in Isaiah chapter 44, and we're going to look at two different scriptures in Isaiah 44, and I'm going to be using the King James version uh, because this is the version that the majority of people are more familiar with, and for others that may not be familiar with more of a Hebraic understanding, they probably won't be as put off by the King James as they might be other versions. But we're looking at Isaiah 44 and looking at verse 6, and says, "Thus saith Yahweh, the King of Israel, and his Redeemer, the Lord Yahweh of hosts. I am the first, and I am the last, and beside me there is no Elohim." So this is a couple things I want to bring out in this verse is that it declares Yahweh to be the King of Israel. Yahweh declares and states, "I am the first and I am the last, and beside me there is no Elohim." Let's drop down to verse 8. And it says, "Fear ye not, neither be afraid. Have not I told you from that time, and have declared it? Ye are even my witnesses. Is there an Elohim besides me? Yea, there is no Elohim, I know not any." So here we have Yahweh declaring that He is the only Elohim. He is the only God, and He doesn't even know Himself of any other Elohim, any other gods. We could even say any other Elohim creator, Elohim judge. He doesn't know of any others. Let's go to Isaiah 48 in verse 12. It says, "Hearken unto me, O Jacob and Israel, my called. I am He, I am the first, I also am the last." So here again we have Yahweh declaring Himself to be the first and the last. Now there are those out there that will say that Yeshua was not Yahweh manifest in the flesh, even though I believe it is in John that John declares Yahweh to have come in the flesh of Yeshua. So in Revelation 1 and 11, this is the vision that John is seeing on the Isle of Patmos. And this is what he heard a voice saying. And it is very clear that the voice he is hearing is the voice of Yeshua. In verse 11 of chapter 1, Yeshua declaring, "I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last." We go to verse 17. It says, "When I saw him, I fell at his feet as dead, and he laid his right hand upon me, saying unto me, Fear not. I am the first and the last." Verse 18, "I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore." So here we have Yeshua declaring Himself to be the first and the last. We have Yahweh in Isaiah declaring Himself to be the first and the last. We have to look at this let's just use some common sense here on these two accounts in Isaiah, Revelation. You've got two people declaring, you've got Yahweh declaring Isaiah, He's the first and the last. You've got Yeshua declaring in Revelation, he is the first and the last. If we separate them, then we have an issue. We have someone's not telling the truth. It's impossible for Yahweh to declare himself to be the first and the last, and Yeshua to declare himself to be the first and last, if it is not the same one speaking. Now, there are some that will say that there is going to be a exchange. Yahweh's going to hand the kingdom over to Yeshua. Yeshua's going to hand it back over to Yahweh. And this one, they're going to swap back and forth through periods of times or periods of dispensation. And I personally see Yahweh, Yeshua, and the Ruach, the Spirit, as one, all in one, Yahweh. Now, to go a little bit further, let's look at Revelation 1 and 12. And this is John speaking of, he turns to see the voice speaking to him. And he says, and I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle. His head and his hairs were like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire. Okay, now let's go to, this is John describing the voice he heard speaking to him. Let's go to Daniel chapter 7. In verse 9. Okay, now in Revelation, we have shown that Yeshua was the one that declared himself to be the first and the last. Isaiah, Yahweh declares himself to be the first and the last. So here, we have to understand that we have got 2 people speaking. Supposedly, according to some, 2 separate individuals, 2 separate, let's say it this way. We're just going to leave it with 2 separate individuals as how some would describe it. So John turns around to see the voice speaking to him. He describes the voice speaking to him. John understands that it is Yeshua speaking to him. He describes it. Daniel 7 and 9, Daniel says, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. So, Daniel says he saw the Ancient of Days, and his garment was white, and his hair was as white as snow, like pure wool. Well, that's the Ancient of Days. Now, there are some that will say that Yahweh and Yeshua are 2 separate, let's say, entities. They're 2 separate individuals. Okay, I want to show you the weakness in this argument. And it is that they both declare to be the same thing. And now when you have Daniel giving his description of the Ancient of Days, and you have John giving his description of Yeshua, they are the same. You know, John is going to describe later on in the book of Revelation the throne room. Ezekiel, in his chapter 1 of Ezekiel, when he describes what he sees, it is almost identical to what John sees in the throne room. Daniel says he sees the throne and who's sitting on it. It is Yahweh. So just let me say it this way. Yahweh and Yeshua are the same. They are not separated. You don't have Yahweh over here and Yeshua over here. Wherever you find Yahweh, you're going to find Yeshua. Wherever you find Yeshua, you're going to find Yahweh. Let's drop on down to verse 13 in Daniel chapter 7. He says, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him, and there was given him dominion and glory and kingdom, and a kingdom that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So we're not seeing the Ancient of Days get up off the throne, and then this Son of Man come and sit upon the throne. It is still Yahweh and Yeshua. Let me say it this way. What we may see is just another dispensation. The kingdom is being established now, is what's taking place. But it says that his dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed. So if we're going to say that Yahweh is getting up off the throne and Yeshua is sitting on the throne and he's going to be king from now on, or he's going to rule, because it says it's an everlasting kingdom. It's not going to pass away. So this does away in itself with the idea of some of these individuals that say that this one's going to rule for a period of time. He's going to pass the baton to this one, and he's going to rule for a period of time. Then, they're going to switch back and forth, back and forth. This in Daniel, what Daniel is saying, does not play that out. So let's see whose kingdom and who's ruling. Let's go to Exodus chapter 15. And verse 18 says this. Exodus 15:18. Yahweh shall reign forever and forever. It doesn't get much plainer than that, guys. There's not going to be any, let's say it this way, a passing of a baton. There's not going to be any swapping thrones. Exodus says Yahweh is going to reign forever. Daniel says the one sitting on the throne he's going to reign forever and ever. If this is true, that they're two separate, Yahweh's over here, Yeshua's over here, and they're both going to reign forever and ever, then evidently there is going to be two separate kingdoms for each one to rule separately, and that does not play out in the scriptures. I'm going to end with this, and that is Amos 3:7. And it probably won't be word for word, but it says, surely he does nothing, speaking of Yahweh, without letting his prophets know. If you take that scripture and you run it all through the Tanakh, all through the Hebrew scriptures, the prophets are the ones that reveal the secrets of God. The prophets are the ones that God speaks to reveal what he's going to do. And nowhere does it say there's going to be a division of this one's going to rule and this one's going to have his turn. Prophets do not say that. Okay, Ezekiel, and here again, just one more example without turning there in the scriptures, just in Ezekiel, Yahweh says that he is going to come himself and gather his scattered sheep and bring them back to them. What did Yeshua say that he came to do? What was he sent for? He says, I was not sent but for the lost sheep of Israel. If this does not show that these are the one, Yahweh and Yeshua are one, there's no separation in them, That's just another example proving the fact that they are one. Until next time, hopefully you find this useful. Shabbat Shalom.